When Kim saw who actually owned his company, his face went completely white. 3 months earlier, he divorced Amanda Donald, called her worthless, walked away without looking back. Now he was standing in a boardroom, staring at the signature on his termination letter. The same elegant handwriting he'd seen on birthday cards for 5 years. His ex-wife. The woman he'd thrown away for her best friend. The woman he thought had nothing. She owned everything. And she was just getting started. But to understand how Amanda went from a grieving, betrayed daughter to the woman who destroyed everyone who underestimated her, we need to go back. Back to the day her mother died. Back to the moment two people made the worst mistake of their lives. They chose the worst possible time to betray her. Amanda's mother had just died, and before the funeral was even over, her husband was already planning his exit. Her best friend. She was planning to take Amanda's place. They thought they were abandoning a nobody, a grieving daughter with nothing to her name. They had no idea what Amanda's mother had been hiding for 3 decades. They had no idea what was waiting inside that safety deposit box. And they definitely had no idea that the quiet, humble woman they were discarding was about to become the most dangerous person in their lives. Welcome to Western Stories. If you love stories where betrayers get exactly what's coming to them, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. Drop a like on this video to help us share more incredible stories. And comment below, have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely? Let me know. Now, let's get into how Amanda's story began, because what starts as pure heartbreak becomes something absolutely devastating. The funeral was cold and gray, rain turning the cemetery into a blur of black umbrellas and whispered condolences. Amanda Donald stood at her mother's grave, trying to process a grief so heavy it felt physical. Naomi Donald had been a librarian, a single mother, a woman who taught Amanda that character mattered more than money. Kim didn't even pretend to care. He checked his phone. Texted someone. Amanda saw Anna's name flash across the screen. But it was the lawyer who changed everything. An older man Amanda had never seen before, approaching with a single envelope bearing her mother's handwriting. Inside were 3 things, a key, an address, and 7 words that made no sense. Don't open it until you're alone. Amanda had no idea her mother had been keeping a secret. She had no idea that secret was about to give her the power to rewrite everything. And she had absolutely no idea that in 72 hours, the 2 people destroying her life would be the ones begging for mercy. Naomi Donald died at 3:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, and Amanda watched every second of it. The machines beat their steady rhythm until they didn't. The oxygen mask fogged and cleared until it stopped. Her mother's hand, the one that had braided her hair, signed permission slips, worked double shifts to keep them afloat, went still in hers. "I'm so sorry," the nurse whispered, but Amanda couldn't respond. She just sat there, frozen, staring at the woman who'd been her entire world. Kim arrived 2 hours later, smelling like cologne and offering excuses about traffic. He stayed for exactly 11 minutes, patted Amanda's shoulder twice, and left to handle some work emergencies. He didn't cry. Didn't even pretend to. But Anna came. Anna showed up with tissues and coffee, sat beside Amanda in the cold hospital room, and held her while she finally broke down. "I've got you," Anna murmured, rubbing Amanda's back. "You're not alone. I promise you're not alone." If Amanda hadn't been drowning in grief, she might have noticed how Anna checked her phone every few minutes. Might have seen a small smile when a text came through. Might have recognized that this support felt more like performance than genuine care. The funeral arrangements blurred together. Casket selections. Flower choices. Pastor meetings. Amanda moved through it all like a ghost, signing papers she didn't read, nodding at decisions she didn't care about. Her mother was gone. Nothing else mattered. It wasn't until she was packing up her mother's apartment 3 days later that she found it. A small jewelry box tucked in the back of Naomi's closet, underneath folded sweaters that still smelled like her lavender soap. Inside was a single brass key with a tag attached. First National Bank. Box 447. For Amanda only. Amanda turned the key over in her palm, her mother's handwriting blurring through fresh tears. Naomi had been a librarian who drove a 15-year-old Honda and bought day-old bread to save money. What could possibly be in a safety deposit box? She should have been exhausted. Should have gone home, crawled into bed, let the grief consume her for another day. But something in her mother's careful script, the way she'd underlined, "For Amanda only," made her pause. Amanda clutched the key tighter, grabbed her coat, and headed for the door. Whatever her mother had hidden, whatever secret she'd kept, Amanda was about to find out. The funeral reception was held at their apartment because Amanda couldn't afford to rent a space. 15 people crowded into the living room, eating store-bought sandwiches and speaking in hushed, uncomfortable tones about how peaceful Naomi looked, how she was in a better place now. Kim stood by the window, checking his watch every 5 minutes. Amanda noticed. Of course she noticed. But she was too numb, too hollowed out by grief to confront it. She accepted condolences from her mother's former coworkers, hugged distant cousins she barely remembered, and tried not to fall apart every time someone said Naomi's name. "Babe." Kim's voice cut through her fog. He was already putting on his coat. "I hate to do this, but I've got that client dinner tonight. The Henderson account. I told you about it last week." Amanda stared at him. "The funeral was this morning." "I know, and I was there. But this dinner's been on the books for months. Henderson's flying in from Chicago specifically for this. If I cancel, we lose the account." He kissed her forehead, quick and perfunctory. "You understand, right? You've got Anna here anyway. She'll take care of you." He was gone before Amanda could respond, leaving her standing in a room full of strangers eating sandwiches in honor of her dead mother. Anna appeared at her elbow, wine glass in hand. "Man," she said with an eye roll. "Always about the next deal. But don't worry, sweetie. I'll stay as long as you need." Amanda nodded, accepting the comfort, but something felt wrong. Kim had never mentioned the Henderson account. Never said anything about a dinner tonight. And the way he'd left, not reluctantly, but almost eagerly, like he couldn't wait to escape, made her stomach twist. Later that night, after everyone had gone and Anna had finally left with promises to check in tomorrow, Amanda sat alone in the dark apartment. Kim's side of the bed was empty. It was nearly midnight. She pulled out her phone and opened his location. They'd always shared it. For safety, Kim had said when they first got married. He wasn't at a restaurant. The pin dropped on an address she didn't recognize. A residential building in the nice part of town. Amanda's hand shook as she stared at the screen. Her mother had been in the ground for less than 12 hours, and her husband was lying to her. The first crack in her marriage had just become a chasm. First National Bank smelled like old money and furniture polish. Amanda approached the counter with her mother's key, her hands still shaking from last night's discovery of Kim's lie. The bank manager, a severe woman named Mrs. Chin, examined the key and Amanda's ID with the thoroughness of a surgeon. "Box 447, Mrs. Chin said, her expression shifting to something unreadable. "Right this way, Ms. Donald." The vault was cold and silent. Mrs. Chin left Amanda alone in a small private room with a metal box that looked disappointingly ordinary. Amanda's fingers trembled as she turned the key. Inside was a single envelope and a leather portfolio embossed with a name she didn't recognize, Ashford Holdings. She opened the envelope first. Her mother's handwriting covered 3 pages. "My dearest Amanda, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you're probably confused and heartbroken. I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for every lie, every struggle, every moment you watched me clip coupons and work overtime. But I need you to understand, it was all intentional. My maiden name was Naomi Ashford. My father built Ashford Holdings from nothing, and when he died, he left me everything. $2.7 billion, Amanda. An empire that spans real estate, investment firms, tech startups, and more companies than I can list here. I could have raised you in mansions, private schools, designer everything. But I watched wealth destroy my siblings, turn them shallow, cruel, entitled. I refused to let that happen to you. So I hid it all. Lived modestly. Taught you that character matters more than money. And you became exactly who I hoped, kind, hard-working, genuine. Now you have both. The character I built in you, and the means to protect yourself. The portfolio contains everything: account numbers, legal documents, contacts. Harold Ashford, my cousin, manages the estate. He's expecting your call. Trust him. Use this wisely, my love. Not for revenge, but for justice. Not for cruelty, but for protection. I raised you to be better than the people who will inevitably underestimate you. You are an Ashford now. Act like one. All my love, Mom. Amanda's tears fell onto the paper, smudging the ink. She opened the portfolio with shaking hands. Bank statements. Investment reports. Property deeds. The numbers were so large they didn't feel real. $2,734,567,891.43. Her mother, who'd worked at a library for 33 years, who'd hemmed Amanda's jeans because buying new ones was wasteful, had been a billionaire the entire time. And now Amanda was too. She pulled out her phone and dialed Harold Ashford's number. When he answered, her voice was steady for the first time in days. "This is Amanda Donald," she said. "I'm ready to claim my inheritance." Kim came home 3 days later with suitcases and a lawyer's business card. Amanda was sitting at the kitchen table with her mother's letter still in her hands, having read it 17 times. She'd spent the past 72 hours in a strange state of suspended reality, grieving her mother while simultaneously discovering she was a billionaire. Harold Ashford had confirmed everything over the phone, arranged meetings with attorneys, and quietly begun transferring assets into Amanda's name. "We need to talk," Kim said, not even bothering to take off his coat. Amanda looked up at him, really looked at him, and wondered how she never noticed the calculation in his eyes. The way he assessed everything like a balance sheet, determining value and worth with cold precision. "I want a divorce." No preamble. No apology. Just 5 words delivered like a business decision. Amanda said nothing, so Kim continued, his voice taking on the tone he used with underperforming employees. "Let's be honest, Amanda. This isn't working. It hasn't been working for a while. We're incompatible. You're stuck in this cycle of mediocrity, a dead-end design job, no ambition, no drive. I need a partner who matches my trajectory, who understands success. Someone like Anna?" Amanda's voice was quiet, almost detached. Kim had the decency to flinch, but he recovered quickly. "Anna gets it. She's building something. She has goals. You've been coasting for years, and now with your mother gone." He shrugged. "I think it's time we both moved on." Amanda watched him, this man she'd married 5 years ago, and felt nothing. No heartbreak. No shock. Just a cold, crystalline clarity. "There's no point dragging this out," Kim continued, pulling papers from his briefcase. "I had my attorney draw up a simple agreement. No-fault divorce. We split what little assets we have 50-50. You keep your car, I keep mine. We're both free to move forward." He slid the papers across the table, already reaching for a pen like this was just another contract to sign. "Okay," Amanda said. Kim stopped mid-reach. "What?" "Okay. I agree." She picked up the pen and signed her name on every line marked with an X. Clean, decisive signatures that took less than 2 minutes. "Is that everything?" Kim stared at her, clearly thrown off balance. He'd expected tears. Begging. Maybe even anger. Not this calm, immediate compliance. You're really okay with this?" Amanda stood, gathering her mother's letter and the business card Harold Ashford had sent over. "You want to marry Anna? Marry her. You want to chase success with someone more ambitious? Go ahead. I'm not going to stop you, Kim." She walked toward the bedroom, then paused at the doorway. "You should probably take your things today. I'd like you moved out by tomorrow. The confusion on his face was almost satisfying. Almost. But Amanda had bigger plans than petty satisfaction. She had her mother's empire to claim, and 2 betrayers to quietly, methodically destroy. She just needed them to think they'd already won. Amanda stood frozen across the street, rain soaking through her jacket, watching her husband kiss her best friend through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Marcello's, the Italian restaurant where Kim had proposed to her 5 years ago. But to understand how she ended up on this rain-slicked sidewalk at 9 p.m. on a Thursday, watching her entire life confirm itself as a lie, we need to rewind 6 hours. That afternoon, Anna had called. "Hey sweetie, how are you holding up? I've been so worried about you." The concern in her voice sounded genuine. It always did. "I'm managing," Amanda said, packing Kim's belongings into boxes. "Kim and I are getting divorced." The pause was a half-second too long. "Oh my God, Amanda! I'm so sorry. What happened?" "He said we're incompatible. That I lack ambition." Amanda folded one of Kim's shirts with mechanical precision. "He wants someone who matches his trajectory." "That's horrible." Anna's voice dripped with sympathy. "Listen, I have a work dinner tonight, but tomorrow let's get coffee, okay? You shouldn't be alone right now." "Where's your dinner?" Amanda asked, something prickling at the back of her mind. "Just Marcello's. Boring client thing. I'll text you after?" Amanda ended the call and stared at Kim's half-packed suitcase. Marcello's. The same restaurant Kim had mentioned yesterday when he'd frantically rescheduled their final conversation about the divorce. Something about a last-minute business obligation. She checked Kim's shared location one more time. The pin dropped exactly where she expected, Marcello's Italian restaurant. That's how Amanda ended up across the street at 9 p.m., rain plastering her hair to her face, watching through the window as her husband and her best friend celebrated their victory. They were at the corner table, the romantic one, the one that overlooked the city lights. Kim was wearing the suit she'd bought him for their anniversary. Anna wore a dress Amanda had helped her pick out last month. And then Kim leaned across the table and kissed her. Not a quick peck. Not an accident. A slow, deliberate kiss that spoke of familiarity and practice. Anna's hand came up to cup his face, her fingers threading through his hair with the ease of someone who'd done it 100 times before. Amanda's hands clenched at her sides. Her phone buzzed, a text from Anna. "Dinner running late, so boring. Miss you, babe, red heart." Something inside Amanda went perfectly, utterly still. The grief that had been crushing her for days simply vanished. Replaced by something colder. Sharper. She pulled up Harold Ashford's number and typed a message. "I need to know everything about Kim Yo-young's consulting firm and Anna Young's hotel chain. Every financial weakness, every vulnerability, every debt. I need it by Monday." The response came within seconds. "Consider it done." Amanda took one last look at the happy couple through the window, memorizing their smiles, their ease, their absolute certainty that they'd won. Then she turned and walked away, disappearing into the rain. They had no idea the war had just begun. Harold Ashford's office occupied the entire 47th floor of a Manhattan skyscraper Amanda had walked past 1,000 times without knowing her family owned it. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park. Original artwork lined the walls. The conference table could seat 20, but today it was just Amanda and the silver-haired man who'd been managing her mother's empire for 3 decades. "Your mother was one of the smartest people I've ever known," Harold said, sliding a leather folder across the polished mahogany. "She built you into someone who could handle this. Not just the money, the responsibility." Amanda opened the folder. Page after page of documents transferring control of Ashford Holdings into her name. Real estate portfolios in 12 countries. Majority stakes in tech startups. Investment funds. The casual weight of $2.7 billion condensed into signatures and legal language. She signed every page without hesitation. "The divorce papers Kim gave you," Harold continued, pulling out another file. "You signed away nothing because you own nothing in your name during the marriage. Everything you just inherited is separate property. Completely protected. Good. Amanda's voice was calm, almost detached. I don't want a single dollar from Kim in the settlement. In fact, I want him to think he's escaping cleanly. Harold raised an eyebrow. Most people in your position would take half of everything. Most people don't have what I have. Amanda leaned forward. Tell me about Kim Yo-young's consulting firm. Harold opened his laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard. Summit Strategic Consulting. Kim's a junior partner, but he acts like he runs the place. The firm's profitable, but barely. They've been hemorrhaging clients for 6 months. 3 major accounts are up for renewal in the next quarter, and if they lose even one, they'll have to downsize. Who owns the building they lease? A commercial real estate investment trust called Zenith Properties. Buy it, Amanda said simply. All of it. I want controlling interest by next week. Harold's smile was sharp. And Anna Young's hotel chain? The boutique hotels. For locations, right? Amanda had done her research during the sleepless nights since Marcello's. Correct. Luxe and loft hotels. Small but upscale. Her flagship location in Brooklyn just underwent expensive renovations. She's leveraged to the hilt, took out substantial loans to fund the upgrades. Who holds the loans? A consortium of private lenders. I can have the names by tomorrow. Buy the debt, Amanda said. Every penny of it. And I want detailed financial reports on both businesses, cash flow, profit margins, every vulnerability. Harold studied her for a long moment. Your mother would be proud. Not because you're seeking revenge, but because you're doing it intelligently. This isn't revenge, Amanda corrected, standing to look out over the city, her city now, in ways Kim and Anna would never understand. Revenge is emotional. Messy. This is strategic correction. They made a calculated decision to betray me. I'm simply ensuring they understand the full cost of that calculation. She turned back to Harold, her reflection ghostly in the window behind her. They wanted someone ambitious, someone who understood success. Let's show them exactly what that looks like. The first domino fell on a Monday morning, exactly 2 weeks after Amanda signed the divorce papers. Kim walked into Summit Strategic Consulting to find his boss, Gerald Morrison, ashen-faced in the conference room. We just got notice from our landlord. Rent's increasing 40%. Effective immediately. What? They can't do that. We have a lease. The building was sold. New ownership. They're invoking the rate adjustment clause. Gerald's hands shook as he slid the letter across the table. We have 30 days to agree or vacate. The letter was signed by a company called Meridian Holdings LLC. Kim had never heard of them. 3 days later, their biggest client, Henderson Industries, the account Kim had supposedly been nurturing, sent termination notice. They'd signed with a competing firm offering more competitive rates and innovative approaches. By Friday, Summit Strategic had lost 2 more accounts. Gerald called an emergency meeting. We're cutting salaries across the board. 20% reduction, effective next pay period. No bonuses this quarter. Kim's carefully constructed lifestyle began crumbling. The luxury car lease he could barely afford before became impossible. The country club membership he'd bragged about to Anna? Cancelled. The reservation he'd made at that exclusive restaurant to celebrate their engagement. He had to downgrade to somewhere more reasonable. Across town, Anna's world was imploding even faster. The loans she'd taken to renovate her flagship Brooklyn hotel came due early. The consortium of private lenders had sold her debt to an investment firm called Sterling Capital Group, and they wanted immediate restructuring. Higher interest rates. Accelerated payment schedules. New operational standards that required expensive upgrades. This is predatory, Anna shouted at her accountant. How is this legal? It's in the fine print. The original lenders had the right to sell. The new owners have the right to modify terms within certain parameters. You signed off on all of it. Her hotel started bleeding money. The Brooklyn flagship, freshly renovated, couldn't book enough rooms to cover the new loan payments. Her other 3 locations struggled under new health and safety compliance requirements that seemed to target every minor infraction. One inspector found a loose tile in the bathroom. $15,000 in fines and mandatory renovations. Another flagged her kitchen ventilation system as substandard. $30,000 to upgrade immediately or face closure. Anna worked 16-hour days trying to keep everything afloat. She snapped at employees, skipped meals, started every morning with calls to banks, begging for extensions she never received. And through it all, either Kim nor Anna connected the dots. They were too busy drowning. Kim stopped by Anna's office one evening, finding her surrounded by spreadsheets and overdue notices. "We need to talk about the engagement party," he said. "Maybe we should postpone." "Postpone?" Anna looked up, eyes red from crying. "Kim, I might lose everything. The flagship hotel is 30 days from foreclosure. Join the club. I just got demoted to associate. Gerald's cutting staff next month, and I'm probably on the list." They stared at each other, the glamorous future they'd planned dissolving in real time. Meanwhile, in her modest apartment that she hadn't bothered to upgrade despite her billions, Amanda sat with Harold Ashford's weekly report. Meridian Holdings and Sterling Capital Group were just 2 of the 17 shell companies now quietly dismantling Kim and Anna's lives. She took a sip of wine and turned to the next page. The squeeze had just begun. They posted the announcement on Instagram at sunset, the lighting perfect, their smiles even more so. "After everything life has thrown at us, we found each other. Kim and Anna. Forever starts now. Ring #engaged #new beginnings." The photo showed Anna's hand, modest diamond ring catching the light, resting on Kim's chest. They looked radiant. Victorious. Like people who'd fought for their happiness and won. The comments poured in. "Congratulations. Beautiful couple. So happy for you both." Amanda saw the post while reviewing quarterly reports in Harold's office. She stared at it for exactly 5 seconds, then returned to the spreadsheet showing Summit Strategic Consulting's catastrophic third-quarter losses. "Send the final notice," she said quietly. Harold nodded. "It's done." Kim got the call the next morning. Gerald Morrison's voice was hollow, defeated. "I'm sorry, Kim. We're downsizing. Effective immediately, your position has been eliminated." "What?" "Gerald, you can't. I've been here 6 years. The building lease is killing us. We're losing money every month. I had to let go of 12 people. You're getting 2 weeks severance. That's the best I can do." Kim hung up and stared at the wall of his apartment, the expensive apartment he could no longer afford. He'd planned to propose at a Michelin-star restaurant. Instead, he'd done it at Anna's struggling hotel over takeout because either of them could justify the expense. And now he had no job. He called Anna, needing comfort, but her phone went straight to voicemail. She was dealing with her own nightmare. The health inspector had arrived at the Brooklyn flagship during the Sunday brunch rush. Peak occupancy. Wealthy clients. Instagram influencers photographing their overpriced eggs Benedict. And then the inspector found it, a minor rodent dropping in the basement storage area. "I'm shutting you down," he announced loudly enough for the entire dining room to hear. "Immediate closure pending full remediation." The influencers posted videos. Luxury hotels shut down for rats. The footage went viral within hours. Guests checked out in droves. Cancellations flooded in. Anna's flagship property, the one she mortgaged her future to renovate, stood empty and humiliated. She sat in her office, watching her reputation burn on social media, when Kim's call came through. "I got laid off," he said, his voice small. "I just lost my flagship," Anna replied numbly. Silence stretched between them. "Maybe we should postpone the engagement party," Kim offered weakly. "There's not going to be an engagement party, Kim. I can't even pay my staff this month." Anna's voice cracked. "I'm losing everything." "So am I." The desperation in Kim's voice morphed into something uglier. "You think this is easy for me? I just lost my career. You lost a job. I'm losing a business I built from nothing. Nothing? Your parents gave you the startup capital. I earned everything I had, on my own. The argument spiraled, both of them too broken and terrified to stop. Every financial stress became ammunition. Every dream they'd shared now felt like a mutual delusion. When Anna finally hung up, she sat alone in her dying hotel and realized something horrible. She missed Amanda. The real Amanda. The friend who would have supported her through this, who would have helped instead of criticized. The friend she'd destroyed for a man who was already blaming her for his failures. Across town, Kim stared at his phone, looking at the engagement photo that had felt like victory yesterday. Today it looked like a lie. Neither of them knew that the woman they'd betrayed was watching every second of their collapse. And she wasn't done yet. The champagne glass shattered on the marble floor, and every head in the Plaza Ballroom turned to watch Kim Yo-young stare at the woman on stage like he was seeing a ghost. But to understand the exact moment Kim's world ended, we need to go back 3 hours, to when he and Anna walked into that gala still believing they had a future. They almost hadn't come. The New York charity gala wasn't their usual scene anymore, not with Kim unemployed and Anna's hotels circling the drain. But the tickets had been purchased months ago, back when they thought they were building an empire together. One last night of pretending everything's fine, Anna had said, putting on the designer dress she'd bought on a credit card she could no longer pay off. The ballroom was spectacular. Crystal chandeliers. Designer gowns. The kind of wealth that made Kim ache with envy and Anna want to scream at the unfairness of it all. They found a corner table, nursing cheap champagne and watching people who hadn't lost everything. That's when the announcement began. Ladies and gentlemen, the MC's voice rang out. We have a very special guest tonight. Please welcome the newly appointed head of Ashford Holdings, here to announce a transformative philanthropic initiative, Amanda Ashford Donald. Kim's champagne glass went still halfway to his lips. The spotlight hit the stage, and there she was. But not the Amanda they knew. This woman wore a midnight blue gown that probably cost more than Kim's entire yearly salary. Her hair was styled perfectly. Diamond earrings caught the light, real diamonds, the kind you only saw in estate auction catalogs. She moved with the quiet confidence of someone who'd always belonged in rooms like this. 3 months ago, I lost my mother, Amanda began, her voice steady and clear. Naomi Donald taught me that true wealth isn't measured in dollars, it's measured in character. She spent 30 years living modestly while secretly managing a multi-billion-dollar fortune, all to teach me that lesson. Anna grabbed Kim's arm. That's not possible. Tonight, I'm honored to announce the Naomi Donald Scholarship Fund, $50 million dedicated to supporting first-generation college students who demonstrate exceptional character and resilience in the face of adversity. The crowd erupted in applause. Because my mother believed that the people who struggled the most often deserve the opportunity the most. Kim's champagne glass slipped from his numb fingers and exploded against the floor. Amanda's eyes found them in the crowd. She'd known exactly where they'd be sitting. Her smile was small, knowing, devastating. If you'll excuse me, Amanda said to the crowd. There are some people here I need to speak with. She descended from the stage like a queen approaching her subjects. Kim and Anna stood frozen as she approached their corner table, her security detail keeping a respectful distance. Hello, Kim? Anna. Her voice was pleasant, almost warm. Enjoying the evening? Amanda, what, how? Kim couldn't form a complete sentence. How am I a billionaire? Amanda finished for him. I always was. My mother was Naomi Ashford. She just wanted to make sure I grew up with character before I inherited the fortune. Turns out, she was right to wait. Anna's face had gone white. The loans, the building sale, that was you? Meridian Holdings. Sterling Capital Group. 17 shell companies in total. Amanda's smile never wavered. I own your debt, Anna. I own Kim's former employer's building. I orchestrated every inspection, every fine, every financial pressure point. You wanted ambition? You wanted someone who understood success? She leaned in slightly. You were sleeping with her. You just didn't know it. You destroyed us, Kim whispered. No. You destroyed yourselves the moment you chose greed over loyalty. I just made sure you understood the cost. Amanda straightened. Oh, and Anna? Sterling Capital is foreclosing on all 4 properties tomorrow. Kim? Summit Strategic just declared bankruptcy. I bought their assets this afternoon. She turned to walk away, then paused. You wanted someone who matched your trajectory. Congratulations. You both chose each other perfectly. Before they could respond, Anna's phone buzzed. A text from her board of directors. Emergency meeting. Effective immediately, you're terminated for financial mismanagement. Kim's phone lit up seconds later. A message from the headhunter he'd contacted. Sorry, but after running your background, no firms are interested. Your reputation in the industry is complicated. They stood there, surrounded by Manhattan's elite, watching Amanda Ashford Donald, the woman they'd thrown away, accept congratulations from billionaires and philanthropists who actually understood what power looked like. The engagement ring on Anna's finger suddenly felt like a shackle. If you're watching this and your heart is racing, if you felt every second of Amanda's victory, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment and tell me, did Kim and Anna get what they deserved, or did Amanda go too far? And be honest, have you ever underestimated someone and regretted it? Let me know. Your engagement keeps these stories coming, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's next.